Hello and g'day. I am Cy from Cyborg Says, and I'm excited because today Google have just announced the new Pixel 7 Pro and 7 to be released in a little while, so pre-orders are open, and I'm here to talk about some of the new features. So I'm going to go through some of the brand new features of the phone. I'm not going to touch on the stuff that's already sort of exclusive to Pixel as much, but yeah, I'm going to go through and rate these features with a 5-star basis in terms of whether or not they're really important to me, and if I should upgrade to the 7 Pro or stick with the 6 Pro. Of course, as a disclaimer, the phone hasn't been released. There's still embargoes on a lot of reviewers, so this is going to be just an initial impression, and hopefully it's going to help some people decide whether or not they want to pre-order and grab the Pixel 7 Pro. So the first feature I want to talk about is the Face Unlock feature, which is finally returning from the Pixel 4 XL. Obviously it's a different technology that they're using because they didn't mention the word solely in there, but I'm really excited for this because I just like to have options to unlock my phone, and the amount of times that people unlock their phones during the day is usually quite a lot. So if that's going to make things easier and that feature works really well, that's going to be a really good selling point for the Pixels, mainly just because it's been missing. It's pretty standard in a lot of other phones nowadays, particularly Android phones and iPhones, so having this Face Unlock feature is just going to be them essentially catching up with the competition, particularly when the fingerprint sensor hasn't been the most responsive in previous reviews. So the Face Unlock feature is really anticipated for myself and is actually quite a good selling point, so for that one I'll give that one a 5 out of 5 stars. Now the next big shift that I was quite excited about was the telephoto zoom and the camera improvements from the Pixel 6 Pro. So the Pixel 7 Pro has a different power of optical lenses, so it's looking to have a 5 times, whereas the 6 Pro I believe had a 4 times. So they're really trying to sell that they can get high quality photos from a lot of different zoom ranges, and they're using different techniques to actually merge pictures together to make really high quality photos. I'm a little bit skeptical about some of this because, you know, their wording is very specific. If you watch the presentation, they're saying, hey, we can get the highest quality zoom at any range, and then they chuck in the little, oh, but it's on a pixel, so it's the best quality zoom photos on a pixel, compared to, hey, these are the best quality zoom photos from any device that you can, any mobile device you can get nowadays. So I'm a little bit skeptical about the whole zoom and the quality of the photos that are going to come out, particularly at those higher levels, like your 30 times, but obviously we have to wait and see. Obviously there's a bit of anticipation there, but one of the features that I'm really looking forward to that's been missing on the Pixel phones is that macro mode. Again, a lot of competitors have a version of the macro mode, and with the improved ultra-wide camera, yeah, I'm really looking forward to being able to get up close because, you know, I like to be creative with photos, as hopefully a lot of other people do. So between the zoom and the macro mode, my anticipation is quite high, and I think that's a pretty good feature that I'm looking forward to testing out. So that's like a 4 out of 5 for sitting on those features there. Now that brings us on to our third main feature that was talked about in the presentation, which is probably one of the biggest selling points. They started with one of these, which is the face unblur feature. Now this seems to be only for the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro, from what I could tell, because it's going to be using that second generation tensor chip to actually achieve that. Now what was really good about this is that they're talking about going back to old photos and being able to fix those up and unblur those faces. So that sounds like something that's quite new. Obviously the Pixel 6 Pro had a face unblur feature that did a bit of software for that, but it sounds like they're taking that to a new level, and also the fact that you can go back to old photos and do that, I think is going to be pretty exciting if they can do it really well. So I'm going to give that another 5 out of 5 stars for the face unblur. Alright, that leads us on to our next feature, which is the cinematic video. Not excited about this one. I like the idea of being able to do cinematic video. I think that's really exciting, and I understand why manufacturers want to put this in, but I haven't seen any phone do it really well so far. So particularly probably my last main experience, because I've been with Android for many years in terms of the type of devices I buy. Samsung's tried to put it in the past, but I haven't been very impressed with the way they've done it. Like, it looks a bit blurry and the edges aren't too great. And even in the demonstration here, if you look at the video using cinematic mode, as soon as you've got a subject that starts moving, or I think this one was paddling away, you can see the jaggedness of the edges. And as soon as you get that jagged edges, I think it destroys the whole purpose of using the feature. If the feature doesn't work well, then people don't use the feature. There's no point in having it, in my mind. So I think there may be use cases for it. Say if someone's still and maybe talking to the phone in an interview style type thing when there's not much movement, it may look okay. But yeah, I was not impressed with the footage that they showed in the presentation. Even though I like the idea of it, I'm not confident that it's going to be implemented very well for moving subjects. So for cinematic video, I'm giving that like a 2 out of 5 stars, but I'm not... I mean, if they can pull it off, it'll be awesome, but even from the video they showed, I'm not very confident that it's going to work well. You've got to start somewhere, and I hope they can improve on it. Yeah, but it's a bit weird in terms of, I sort of already feel like it's not going to be great because of what they've shown in the preview video. Now, on the flip side of that, while we're onto video, there are some really cool features that I'm excited to test out on the Pixel 7 Pro. Part of that is HDR 10-bit video, plus improvements in stabilization and autofocus, and the speech enhancement. Even part of that zoom stabilization as well. So I'm really keen to try out some of those. I think HDR 10-bit video is like a big deal if they can do that really well. I think the preview video that they showed looked really awesome in terms of the colors that came out, particularly when you compare it to that cinematic video beforehand. Because of the effect. But yeah, the actual colors look amazing. The stabilization, autofocus are two really good parts. Typically stabilization has sort of led to poorer quality video in the past, so I'm hoping that quality is going to be good with the stabilization. But again, don't know these things really until you test them out. But just HDR 10-bit video by itself, I'm looking forward to being able to do that on a Pixel device. That'll be awesome. So I've got a 5 out of 5 stars for anticipation for that. Obviously, again, dependent on if they can pull it off really well. Alright, the next little feature, I didn't want to touch too much on the design because it's been covered heaps, and it's very personal opinions in terms of screens and colours and things like that. But they're not really features that are going to sell the phone to me. I think a lot of the software features sell me for Pixels. Obviously, you need a good combination between hardware and software. That's what I believe. But I do like the fact that the 7 Pro and the 7 come with a lot flatter screens. I'm much more of a fan of a flatter screen than the curved edges. I feel like I understand why they did it. They can sort of up the screen size, or say they've got a bigger screen size, but the curved edges have never done it for me. I don't know. It's just doesn't appeal to me. So the flatter screen and obviously the standard Pixel style is coming back from the Pixel 6 Pro. So yeah, I'm giving it 3 stars in terms of only because it's not what sells the phone for me, but I do appreciate the look of the phone. I do like the Pixel 6 Pro, and I'm pretty sure the 7 looks similar in terms of like that nice scene and layout. Next one again is the included VPN. So they like got some sort of Google VPN coming on the phone. I'm not sure what that's all about in terms of how it's going to run on the phone software wise, but I think that's an interesting thing. I think some people are going to get a lot out of it. I personally probably don't mind too much. I thought it was a bit of a surprise for me that they announced the VPN option on the phone that's built in. For me, it's not really a selling point, but I'm keen to test it out. So I'm going to give that a 3 out of 5 stars. Obviously pending to see if it's actually very useful. Now, a big one for me was the tensor processing unit performance being better. So I think they mentioned like 20% improvement in the performance. If that leads to better battery life, I think that's actually a pretty big deal, and is a really good selling point, because obviously battery life is a big thing with phones, particularly if you start playing games. I've noticed with my 6 Pro, played a bit of Diablo Immortal, sort of drains that battery super fast, and it's a bit annoying. So if, like, when you're not gaming, you get a lot of better battery life from an improved Tensor chip, that's a pretty big selling point. So I'm giving that a 4 out of 5 stars. Next one is transcribing voice messages, which I thought was interesting. So if someone sends you a voice message, it can transcribe that instead of having to listen to it if you're not in the right situation. Like if you're out in public, you don't want to listen to a voice message, it'll transcribe. I think that's pretty useful. It's not really a selling point for a phone for me. I'm giving it a 1 out of 5 stars, but there's nothing bad about it. Like, it's good to have. It's just not a selling point for the phone for me personally, mainly because I don't get that many voice messages. Most people text you. You get the odd voice message, but really, I don't think I use it very much. So for me, it's not neither here nor there. But it's always good to have, obviously. Next one is clear calling. So they spent a bit of time on clear calling and a few of the other calling upgrades, which sort of were also moved across from the Pixel 6 Pro. Clear calling, I think, sounds really cool. The fact that you're going to hear a clearer voice, even though the person you're talking to might be in a really noisy situation. If that works really well, that could be really good, because there's nothing worse than getting a phone call and there's subways going off and buses going off. So if they do that well, that could be really cool. So I'm giving that a 4 out of 5 stars because I'm anticipating actually testing that out and seeing how well they've done it. So clear calling sounds pretty cool. So a big question in terms of, hey, here's quite a few things that I'm anticipating with the Pixel 7 Pro, and I would really love to test out. A big thing is, like, I own a Pixel 6 Pro, and if someone else does, like, should you upgrade? Well, one of the things that I've found in the past is that Google are pretty good at filtering down some new features if the phones can handle them. So obviously the Pixel 6 Pro has the first generation of the Tensor chip. This is the second generation, so there may be some features from the Pro that we've just gone through that may filter down to the Pixel 6 Pro. So depending on which ones filter back and which ones don't, it's going to be really interesting in terms of whether it's going to be worthwhile upgrading or not. I know they've already talked about that face unblur only being for the 7 and 7 Pro, but whether or not there's a timed thing on that or if it's never going to come to the 6 Pro is yet to be seen. But I'm really keen to find out where they go, because they have been really good at dropping back features to their older Pixel devices in the past. So really keen to see what happens in this space, and looking forward to the launch and embargoes lifting on official reviewers to see how we progress with the 7 Pro. Got any thoughts or comments, please leave them below. You might find other features, if there's any other features from the videos that you thought were pretty awesome that I didn't mention. Yeah, let us know about them, and thanks for listening.